Welcome to Remainders, the podcast dedicated to exploring the wonder and joy that is the movies, the old, the new, and maybe most importantly, the not so remembered ones worth a fresh look. Joining me is our co-host and king of the cool book recommendations, the guy who would never dream of putting the blame on MAME, Patrick McIntyre. Great to be back with you, Pat, on a very, very warm day here in Los Angeles.
Oh my God, it's smoking here in Chicago. Awesome to see you, bud. Always love seeing that smile. Always look forward to our talks every week on these movies. And yeah, man, that song's been stuck in my head all day now after watching this.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to talk about here. Today we're covering Gilda. So if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to go ahead and give our audience a brief synopsis of what this film is all about.
Oh yeah.
All bad things end up lonely, little one. Gilda, director Charles Vidor's 1946 post-war noir that tells the story of two-bit, hard-nosed, cheating gambler Johnny Farrell. Farrell is played by boyish everyman Glenn Ford, but I don't think I'm alone in saying that this film's clear scene stealer is his on-again, off-again love interest, Gilda. Gilda is big trouble with a capital T. The charmingly wicked dancer and singer is played by the woman whose picture was affixed to one of the test atomic bombs, a one-time wife of Orson Welles, Andy Dufresne's muse for getting out of Shawshank Redemption through this widely popular 1940s pinup girl, Rita Hayworth. Gilda is the perfect picture of seduction and destruction. Hayworth is sensationally eloquent and poised in this film, considering her plan is to win back Johnny by whittling him down with jealousy as he breezes through her Rolodex of male suitors. Her big play, though, is marrying Johnny's new boss, Balin Munson, played stoically by Joe McCready. The film plays cat and mouse between Ford's Johnny and Hayworth's Gilda for the better part of the movie, until we learn that the casino in our story that's played out as a front for a larger criminal empire that's headed by McCready's Balin Munson. The pressure is on as Munson tries to dodge the Germans he owes debts to and pin down his wife, who increasingly moves closer and closer to Johnny, even though Johnny wants nothing to do with the woman he believes is nothing but a two-timing no-good liar and a cheat, just like him. There is excellent chemistry between Ford and Hayworth, who have been rumored to be on-again and off-again lovers in real life as well, all through their lives. There's much to discuss here about one of my all-time favorite films from the 1940s and beyond. This is Gilda. So Patrick, let me hand it over to you and get your first reaction. I'm not even sure, had you seen this film before we decided to do a podcast on it?
No, this is definitely my first time seeing it. And yeah, my first reaction was, oh yeah, the Shawshank Redemption movie. This is obviously I knew Rita Hayworth from the short story, and then what was adapted to Shawshank, but yeah, I didn't realize this was the actual movie that they were watching, like in the prison house, like the scene when she flips her hair. It's her introduction in this movie, and so I'm definitely, that was kind of like my touchstone for it. I like heard of this movie. I knew it was a classic, and so that's why I was like, to hear Darren talk about this, I'm definitely going to take the opportunity, because I know this is right up your alley. So, and yeah, then your synopsis laid it out again clearly for me, because I'm always one that gets slightly confused with elaborate plots, and this one is pretty plotty. And so having you lay it out for me, it was just like, oh, okay, that actually all makes sense now. So.
Yeah, sometimes things get lost, there's a lot going on. And a lot of times too, like when there's things like this is just post-war, it's like right after the war had ended, at least when the Germans had given up. So it's kind of like Casablanca. There's like a little bit like fuck the Germans in this, like it's kind of like a lot of that with those old noirs from the 40s. And you definitely get a little bit of that. And so when that gets thrown into it, sometimes the plot gets like a little bit like, okay, what's going on here? Why are Germans involved? And like, right. What does that have to do with the lead character? Like who, the thing is like, we don't really know much about him. He just comes in, McCready is the character, the boss, Balin Munson. He comes in and kind of saves the day for Johnny at the beginning, which is, if you blink, you could miss like that. Johnny feels like, okay, I kind of owe this guy, but at the same time, I owe nobody. But I can kind of find a way in because I'm a guy who's really good at cheating at cards and stuff like that. So I can kind of come in as like a cooler, as a bouncer into this casino and help this guy who actually helped me. And then they kind of have this bond where they both like respect each other. And as the movie goes on, in the first 15 minutes or so, you find out that Balin marries this woman as he goes on a trip, and it turns out to be Gilda. Now, we don't know at first, but Gilda, played by Rita Hayworth, actually had a relationship with Johnny, which is the big plot point here. We don't find that out right away, but there's right away something super, super tension filled between the two of them when they meet. Like you mentioned that scene, and she flips her hair up and says, "Me."
Yeah. Right.
Unbelievable scene. But yeah, so
You're
there.
it was great. Your text, you sent me a text. You had obviously visited, which museum was that?
So there was a museum, but the great thing about that, I almost lost it because obviously I've loved this film for a while since I first saw it. I'm a huge fan of noirs, you know that, old movie, black and white movies. And I love The Lady from Shanghai, which is another great, great movie that Rita Hayworth is in, directed by her husband, Orson Welles. But Gilda is pretty special for so many reasons, and that's why I kind of opened up talking about the atomic bomb. I mean, that's no joke. Like, that is actually historical fact, and like Rita Hayworth not necessarily wanting that in her life. She didn't want to be this like sex star, but she couldn't help it. She just was. She was so good in this film, especially, that it just blew up for her. And not the, no pun intended with the atomic bomb, or the fact that Oppenheimer's in theaters right now, but this was something that when I saw at the Chinese theater over here, that's where I go to see films when I don't see it at the Los Feliz 3, which is our neighborhood theater. They have that dress that she did, black dress from Put the Blame on Mame, along with a bunch of other cool things as you walk into the theater. Like, to see that iconic dress just sitting there in that case, it just was like, it was such a, it's just so big, it just, you could feel like such an iconic scene from that film. And like, here's the dress, not animated, not moving, but at one point Rita Hayworth was in that, playing this iconic character. So yeah, this morning I sent, after I knew Pat had finally seen the film, I sent over the picture of that dress. And yeah, that's it.
So I was in the middle of watching the film, and and so I read it, and it said Gilda Farrell. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, obviously that's how they're connected to some way. Either they were married in the past or some sort of relation. So it was like 5 minutes before, but like as the text came up, I was like, oh, so I guess they are related. So hey, well, no, trust me, me more than anybody. I spoilers are not a problem at all, because I just genuinely don't believe if a movie gets spoiled, I mean, only bad movies can get spoiled. Like if it's a good movie, there's nothing to really spoil because you're going to end up wanting to watch it multiple times. Like, I don't know. So there was definitely no problem there, but it was pretty funny. I love getting your text of all your adventures with the Chinese theater and all the movie museums, but that one was in the middle of watching it, so I thought it was like just so perfect. So
yeah, you know me, I can't hold back when I get excited about something like that. Like and oftentimes, and if you're listening to this podcast, you might be just such a big fan of the movies like we are. And it's kind of hard. The reason that we love talking about these films is because that's what we used to do when we worked at a movie store back in the day at Suncoast Video. Pat and I would talk about movies like this back and forth. And it's really, really, really hard, I've found through life, to find people that you can talk to that way. Like, when you're really a cinephile, like through and through, like, it's not like a fad, it's nothing, it's just something that you have to have in your blood. Like, you can't help but like send those texts when you see stuff. To the people that get it. And that's why I love sending that stuff to you.
It's in our blood. I look forward to those every time I get it. So I love it. Okay, so my first reaction, I love the movie. My favorite thing, just thinking out loud about it, like after watching it, like I saw it for the first time today, and then watch some of the commentary on the Criterion channel.
Oh wow!
From Richard Schickel. the film historian. He did a commentary of the movie, and that's on Criterion. And I'm assuming that's where you also screened it.
Yeah, but I
and
didn't watch the commentary, but I was interested in. So it wasn't
yeah,
good. Commentary good.
it was all right. He just gave a lot of small tidbits. I've been on a huge DVD commentary kick, and so I've been listening to some of the great ones, Boogie Nights and James Cameron and Peter Jackson doing Lord of the Rings. So I've been listening to some really good ones lately. His was all right. He was just kind of giving a lot of historical context.
Yeah.
I kind of just had it on in the background. But anyway, like my first reaction, I mean, my favorite thing about the movie was the like, so once Gilda and it like comes out that Gilda and Johnny were like a thing in the past, just how much the rest of the movie is like, how much is Gilda still actually wanting Johnny, and then vice versa. Like just watching it.
Well, right? Because like you
Yeah.
kind of like, there's no way that she likes him still. Like she plays it very, very
Right.
until it kind of unravels, a little bit later. But at first I wasn't like, oh, she wants him back, It's like, no, she really wants to get this guy's goat. And they even say that stuff about it, like, I hate you, or he says the line, like, does this guy know you're married? Does it bother you that you're married? And she goes, I want to know, does it bother you?
Yeah. Dude, yeah, she's getting all over town, hooking up with lots of different guys, and you never quite know if it's a ploy or whatnot. And again, like I said, like either whether or not she even knows, like she still has feelings for Johnny, and like I said, vice versa, like seeing like if he actually is still interested in her. Watching that play out through all the other plot machinations was the best part for me, because there's like a whole tungsten cartel subplot with Balin, which is like that's where apparently like his shady dealings, like he's running the casino, but he has a tungsten, which is like the Wolfram metal. I had to look at, I knew it was something on the elemental
Totally a
type, but
MacGuffin. Totally.
it's what?
Totally a MacGuffin,
Yeah.
It's like, just,
But it's like it kind of goes nowhere, but not really. But it's like such a great little like, oh yeah, I'm running a cartel. Although he does have a great line from that: "A man who controls a strategic material can control the world, Johnny." It's like even like hearing him say Johnny, it just adds like a little. It's actually true, but you never know. And by the way, what a great name, Johnny Farrell. By the way, that was the first thing I realized. Johnny Farrell is maybe one of the greatest film names I've ever seen. It's so good.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to mention about the power thing. One of my favorite lines in Oppenheimer was the sorry, and if you're watching this, it's not necessarily a spoiler, but it is a line that Robert Downey Jr. says, and it's about power lying in the shadows. And that line, my girlfriend and I, like both, when we walked out of that film, were like, anyway, I could talk Oppenheimer for fucking years. I thought that was one of the most perfect films ever made. I loved it so much. But we'll go back to it.
We're definitely gonna get back to Oppenheimer and Nolan after Gilda. So,
but it's also kind of timely to talk about that, because here we are in 1946. I'm talking about like the fact that the world was so obsessed with Rita Hayworth and like this film that they did, like during the test bombings, they like put her picture on one of the atomic bombs that they tested. All of these bombs were sort of like named after like sort of Hollywood starlets and stuff like that, like very American, you know what I mean? And that movie, like Oppenheimer, is very quiet about it, but it's just like implied that America and the nationality, the pride at the time, and things like that with their movies, with the things that are like as American as apple pie, as that saying goes, like it's just like you got to keep everybody kind of like be true to your schools, the Beach Boys would say, like America, fuck yeah. And that's the feeling. As we talk about a lot, like if we set ourselves in the time period of this film and when it played out, this would be a great escape for people who are just like, oh, we're gonna win the war, World War II, we're winning, and here is Gilda, and then when the atomic bomb is about to go off, like the biggest star at the time is like affixed to it and like ends the war. It's great.
Talk about good marketing. Put some of the hottest women on the planet on these bombs.
Well, and apparently it kind of ruined Rita Hayworth. Like she was like wanted to go. Harry Cohn, from what I've heard in the story, the head of the studio, was like, you cannot say anything about this, but she was very adamant that she was mad when the story broke that she was on the atomic bomb, not the one that hit Hiroshima. It was one of the test bombs. But anyway, just the fact that that image of it, like like this beauty with the destruction, right, which is kind of like her character here. But Harry Cohn was like, do not go, you can't, and again, you can't let on that you're not American, because again, what happens after the war is we've got, communism running rampant. You don't want to come out and be anti-American anything at this time.
Well, all femme fatales are bombs waiting to go off in some sense, I guess. So
That's true. Gloria Graham being the best one in my opinion, but
actually, that was going to be one of my questions. So where does this rank in your femme fatales? Like, what are some of your favorite femme fatales, just off the top of your head? Because like for me, like, you show me Body Heat and Kathleen Turner. She's definitely one of my favorites that I've ever seen. So.
Nicholas Ray's In a Lonely Place with Gloria Graham, I'd say like that is like maybe one of like the more popular, but for a reason, like femme fatale roles. But she's not necessarily the femme fatale that she has been in the past in that film, because you kind of don't, I don't want to give anything away because like we may cover that one. That's one of my favorites as well. But like here, it's kind of the same deal like that. Like femme fatale, like historically is like they've got something up their sleeve to like fuck everything up. It is that way with Rita Hayworth, but like she is kind of chasing after love with Farrell in this. It's not necessarily like she wants to ruin anybody's life. She just wants the old guy back. However, the way she goes about it, it's pretty fucked up, marrying this guy,
Which is more than just a wild card.
Right.
Like a hot wild card, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that is my favorite, that, like the blonde bombshell that's going to ruin everybody's day and probably kill somebody. Like there's no better film than one of those for me. Like Detour is another one that I love as far as that goes. We talked about that. I don't think we've covered it yet, but yeah, this is pretty high up in the list. And I mean, the direction I was going to mention in this film, there's some points that are just so well done. I don't know if you caught a few of them. When you first like get them at a table by themselves, when it's like the first time that it's Glenn Ford and Rita Hayworth sitting there, the camera's pretty wide back on the chair that they're sitting at in the casino, and they're having dinner and they're about to have drinks and stuff like that. And at one point, Balin's with them and he moves away to go handle something. And the camera goes right in on the two of them, just like they're like butted up against the sides of the screen. And it was so great for the audience to be like, this is the moment we've been waiting for. Like we got the two of them together. Like what's it going to be like?
Yeah,
I thought that was just a genius moment of direction.
well, I mean, one of the first, I don't know if it's like symbolic of anything, but stylistically wise, like the opening shot, you see him throwing dice on like the docks playing craps, and he throws the dice like into the screen, so like almost the whole screen is like the dice, and then it just like slowly pulls up, and he grabs at the dice. It's obviously completely different dice. It was just like some camera trick that does that. I don't know, like this, but that was like the first like 3 seconds of the film. I'm like, oh, we got some awesome direction already with this one.
Yeah,
because they were just so much like in film noir. There was just so much innovation because it was like obviously the first time anybody was ever doing stuff like that on screen, which is kind of crazy to think about.
one of my favorite scenes of any film of all time is that scene where they finally do kiss. Spoiler alert, they finally get that kiss in when it gets just too hard to bear. He goes upstairs, he's waiting to kick her out because he's got this like dedication to Munson Balin, his boss, and he does not trust Gilda. He thinks she's been out there cheating on me, whatever their relationship, however that ended before, he just doesn't trust her. And something happened between them where like he just can't let that wall down. So he's gonna kick her out of the house and be like, leave him alone, and goes upstairs, and there she is, kind of surprised to see that he came all the way up to talk to her. And they do that back and forth again, like, I hate you so much. he's like, I could die, I could die, I hate you so much. And then they kiss, and it's like she comes out of the shadow in that scene. She comes out of the shadow into the light when they kiss, and it's so beautifully done. She looks so fucking good. Um, I don't know, like in film history, if you can get much more iconic than that scene.
Yeah, I don't think I've said it, but she is pretty fucking hot in this movie, and she's obviously like a total sex bomb, and like an early one in cinema, and so that's definitely like her place, for better or worse. But that definitely was, from what I understand, because like you've definitely seen more of her movies than that, but like iconic is like an understatement, I'd say. And I mean, even if you don't know who she is really too much, you definitely have like seen the images of her and her place in the film for sure, and influence. I mean, like the week as Barbie comes out, it's like Rita Hayworth is like a total original. Just like Rita walks so Barbie could run, and Margot Robbie could run as Barbie. So
Right, 100%. And it's so easy as time goes by to kind of like forget these great actors and actresses. Um, and I think that's a shame. That's why it's so great that we do a podcast like this, so maybe a new audience can experience, who Rita Hayworth is, and just by our conversation alone, be like, I gotta check out Gilda. Like this performance. It's not just how beautiful she is; it's the performance too. She's so, like I said, she knows. Not to bring up Downey Jr. and Oppenheimer again, but like that's like like when your character is like a manipulative character, that they're going to be hatching some sort of a plot. To be able to act that way, where you don't give it away to the audience, but as the character that the things that you're doing purposefully so that you can get something. And she's doing that here to try to get Johnny Farrell back. But the audience the whole time kind of doesn't know. They don't know that like she's married, Balin, to try to like get close to Glenn Ford again. She, going out with all these guys to make him jealous. I mean, you get it that she gets off on getting him jealous or wants to get him jealous, but you don't know it's really because she loves him.
yeah. Maybe I'm just thinking through the plot. She didn't know Balin knew Johnny, did she?
Well, I think it's implied, because why
it is okay. Maybe I missed that.
Anybody and then all of a sudden be here. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't seem, and they're like so calculated about a lot of things, especially like when they finally like get together and they have Rita Hayworth sort of like in a cage, she can't go anywhere. And they've got like it seems like this is like a universe, this film, where like the impossible is possible. Like you wouldn't think that somebody would hatch this plot to get close to somebody by marrying another guy, but I do think that that's what's happening here, because otherwise, like, how does like out of all the people in the world, like he just happened to come back with her,
Right.
So,
I guess I just kind of, I didn't think about it, but I guess I just took it on coincidence, which I mean,
it could be. They never say.
Yeah. Okay. So I didn't know if there was like maybe a line or something I just missed, or that they were that she was calculating it with it.
Differently than I did, but it's funny because like they never really say it, but we both kind of felt it differently, which is cool.
Yeah. So there was that little piece, Baz Luhrmann and Scorsese talking about it on the Criterion channel, and Baz pointed out about it being a movie about running away to a faraway place. Like just every character is like just trying to get away. And I think he kind of related that to like Casablanca. It's like it's not necessarily about the place; it's about getting away from your past and whatnot. And that like just contextualizing of like why where's the setting? Where's the casino? It's in
Buenos Aires.
Buenos Aires. And it's all the characters that like with like shady past, and they even say it like the three of us at the beginning, even before Gilda comes in. Balin is talking to Johnny. It's like talking about the three of us, and they all have like a completely erased past. It's always them just kind of looking forward as opposed to knowing anything about their own past. So like just like when he pointed that out, I was like, yes, I mean that just contextualizes like of what the whole movie's about. It's like getting away from your past, you're going to a physical place, but it's really the aura that's like set up, and a casino is kind of a perfect place for that, because it's always about not what you did have, but what you could have.
Totally.
Yeah.
There's so many scenes like that too that you're right. It's kind of Casablanca. Well, I did watch that little. It was a while ago because like I think Boz has like brown hair and stuff like that. It was like pretty cool to see like them talking about that and how it like changed their lives and how they would film things. But like it is very Casablanca-esque in the way that there is this place where like these main characters meet up, even though like they're trying to escape things, they're all wound up in their past at the place that they're at. Like
Yeah.
Casablanca, you've got these characters who were all intertwined and had a life that like was bittersweet, right? That's the other thing here. It's like there must have been some love between the two of them and it must have been awesome because she wants it back so badly and it really hurt him.
What about Glenn Ford, man? He's awesome. I've only seen him in one movie before, and that's 3:10 to Yuma, which I love. I haven't seen it in years, but he plays the Russell Crowe character of the James Mangold remake. So it's like the criminal. He was the criminal that they were that the other characters had to like transport.
Wow.
Glenn Ford is in the original, and then the remake, which I actually love more. It's like I said, the James Mangold movie with Russell Crowe and Christian Bale. And I was just thinking of like Copland, which we covered, 3:10 to Yuma, and then Logan. I mean, like that's why I love James Mangold so much. He crushes Western vibes in his movie, at least. And 3:10 to Yuma is just one I've always loved. I should rewatch the original again. Like I said, I saw it like a long time ago, but I remember Glenn Ford being awesome in it.
Yeah, I don't actually remember either, but Glenn Ford, speaking of Gloria Graham, is in a film with Gloria Graham. It was a Fox Noir sort of like conglomerate of films that Criterion had put out, I don't know, a year ago or something like that. And there was a Glenn Ford one where he was like a railway worker and Gloria Graham was his wife, which was fantastic. And I can't remember the name of it. But I watched it back then, and Glenn Ford was good in that. He's great, but he's also kind of like, man, like really everyone takes a backseat to Rita Hayworth in this film. He needs to be who he is, and that's all. Like he just kind of needs to be that hard-nosed, like I'm not taking any shit character, and let her do the rest.
I mean, apparently, like he did actually a big variety of stuff. Apparently, like a lot of comedy as well. Like he was, and I kind of was watching it. I was not surprised by that. He seems so versatile. Like he has like this calm aura to him, but like his physicality is like one thing that I noticed. Like in this movie, watching it, like there's a couple scenes when he's like either slapping characters or kicking them in the shin or punching them out. Yeah. His physicality was amazing. Like he was able to like just be so convincing in a very dramatic way of just like really quickly just slapping this guy without him even understanding like what just happened, and he just pulled it off so perfectly. And it just made sense that like he would probably be in like some sort of physical comedy as well. Like obviously, I'm sure there's a bunch of like I've never even heard of, but I know that's something that he was in with his career.
Yeah, well, like I said, he's kind of an everyman. He's a little bit of a Jimmy Stewart, but he does maybe have a bit more range or at least is known for some different roles than Jimmy Stewart, just always kind of playing Jimmy Stewart, Glenn Ford, not as popular, but still definitely a legendary actor in his time. And I think this role of him being kind of this like I said, got a wall up. Like you can't get better than Glenn Ford in this film because he doesn't let on again. Like I'm talking about with Rita Hayworth, they both do a good job of this cat and mouse. Like,
yeah, oh god, I mean, like I said, that's what I responded to by far most, the two of them together.
Yeah, you don't really get to see much until the film kind of progresses towards the end, like in ways that they actually might care about each other, other than hating each other.
Like, I mean, endings in old movies always, even when they're great, they still make me laugh. It's just the way movies just like ended. It was like so fucking funny to me, like how he can, it's not a criticism at all. It was just kind of a vibe that old school movies had, where they just had the swelling music when they realize they love each other, and then
Yeah.
bam, credits. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
See,
Like,
you got
let's
your
go
love
home.
story. Now get the hell out.
Let's go home at end of the film. And it's like all this amazing shit happens.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's go home.
Right. I feel like that was pretty common until like the 80s. The 80s, like even like in movies in the 70s, it was like, all right, we're done, get out. But like in the 80s is when like there was actually like a come down from the climax of the movie, and then slowly into the credits, and then maybe chill for a second. But back in the day, you were just like, all right, out, next screening.
I feel like sometimes it's about that last line. Like it's not like Casablanca, the ending. Maybe it wouldn't have been as memorable if it hadn't had that line. This is the start of a beautiful friendship, because they're just kind of walking away too. Like they're kind of like walking away into the sunset, walking away as the plane takes off. This one they're just like walking into like another room, going home. But it's like that line, like it's the start of a beautiful friendship, and you're like, fuck, it's pretty good, like,
It was the money shot. They were always aiming for the money shot back in the day at the very end of the movie. So
yeah. But so where would this rank for you as far as like some of the film noirs that you've seen? Did you enjoy it?
I mean, this would be pretty high up there, especially with the historical context. Like I said, like I kind of watched the commentary casually, but reading about it and hearing you point out on the other stuff, that's oftentimes some of the more interesting components of it. I mean, watching it again, it was pretty plotty, which is not a bad thing at all, but like it's something that whenever you're first time you're watching it, I almost feel like that distracts from more of the interesting.
You're 100% right. It's not like I understood exactly what was happening when I saw it the first time.
But not so much about not understanding. It was like sometimes like a convoluted or intricate plot can take away from more of the more interesting parts of movie making, like the shots, like the characters. I don't know, like, so that's just something. I mean, that's a good thing. That means you, like I said, spoilers don't matter, because if it's a good movie, you'll want to watch it again no matter what. And this one is definitely ranking up there with that. Like it's like you were saying, with a lot of the shots, the direction, and then also the iconic component of Rita Hayworth is obviously. I mean, there's a reason why they were screening this at Shawshank, and why Andy Dufresne was jerking off for like 10 years with this poster in his cell. So
yeah, and my so like like my one hang up of this film is that they talk about the main boss, Balin Munson, the guy who's like, somehow hatching a plot to kind of like, be this kind of criminal empire of the world. That's definitely convoluted and hard to understand, especially they talk.
yeah, but it was funny as hell. So I was watching, I was just laughing, like it was like, oh, this is fantastic. I love this. That's the shit I love. Yeah.
And but like I said in the beginning, he's very stoic, so you don't know anything. But that goes against him in one part, and that's at the end when they're talking about, like, Rita Hayworth is trying to tell Glenn Ford, like, you don't know what he's like. He, like, he's mean, and he hurts me. You don't see that between those two. All you see is him like really loving her and like really like doting on her. So like, if he had been a little bit more menacing, a little bit more maniacal, maybe this film could have been like a tad bit better, maybe. Because at the end, by the time you hear that from Rita Hayworth, like, you kind of don't believe it, you kind of like, well, maybe you don't know what to believe, but he comes down and he's like, well, I'm gonna have to kill you, and I'm gonna have to kill you too. Because for the audience, again, this is gonna be a spoiler, but he has to kind of skip town. He's being, so Balin Munson, the boss and the guy that I'm talking about here, he has to skip town because he's going to have to give up and be maybe arrested, I guess, for these things that he's harboring, he's hiding, that are like deeds to land and stuff like that, that it's like a deal he did with the Germans. So he decides to fake his own death, and he jumps off a plane before it blows up over the ocean. And in that scene, you kind of understand that, like, okay, now Glenn Ford's like, I'm inherited all of these things from this guy, and he knows what he's getting into, but he decides to trap Rita Hayworth by marrying her because she's also the beneficiary of all this stuff. And they're kind of now like still playing each other, but now they're married, but they don't really love each other. That's a little hard to gather
It's a
too.
big swing. I was like, well,
Yeah,
first of all, I was like, why the fuck is everybody getting married so quick? I just like
right.
it's like another world, but not only from today, but also from my mind. It's like, why would you get married, let alone get married instantly? Like everybody's getting married like 3 days after they meet each other. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
This is psychotic.
Well, that scene too, it's like Glenn Ford is like telling everybody in the room, like everything's, Munson's dead, but everything's gonna remain the exact
Yeah,
same. I'm in control. And he's like, and I'm marrying Gilda tomorrow. And he lights his cigarette. It's almost like he knows it's fucking crazy, you
no,
know?
he's like, oh yeah, get Mrs. Munson. I mean, Mrs. Farrell, her
Yeah,
cigarette.
yeah, yeah.
But like again, like none of that takes. I mean, that's the shit I love. Like when it's like kind of over the top and almost cartoonish like that. I mean, I love that in older movies. I love that in newer movies. That's the stuff that really that's what like gets my attention more than anything.
Done way more back in the day. It's more like the suspension of disbelief, I believe, is
Yeah,
what happened in old movies all the time. So like if you
yeah,
saw it now without the understanding of like that's kind of like what old movies were like you would think it was totally absurd. But yeah, once you have like the understanding that like no movies just were like that, and
yeah.
like let you kind of enter a little world that's a bit fantastical. And that's why I don't think it's like that far-fetched to think that.
Well,
And
it's just
maybe for
like
both reasons, it's not that far-fetched to think like the way you thought that maybe they just happened to get married and now here we are with my ex-boyfriend. Or
yeah,
it's not so far-fetched to think that she would have plotted to actually go there and marry somebody, because it's like, but we don't know, but that's the point. It's like suspension of disbelief. You believe whatever you think, because either way, this movie, that doesn't matter to the plot.
yeah. I mean, it largely has to do with how literal you take art, which obviously in the 40s we're in a much different place. I think generally people just take things much more literal now these days, and so I think that plays out in a lot of stuff. It's like I was joking about the marriage. It's just like, yeah, I mean, it is goofy, but like it doesn't. It's not like against. I don't hold that against the movie at all. It's like that's just like how they were able to establish this quick time marriage type thing, and it's just what it was. So
Yeah.
I just again, like I said, like that's the stuff that makes me laugh and gets me into it way more than anything else. So
Well, listen, the best part about like a lot of times when we talk about films that I love so much is like I don't like I kind of feel like we've talked about it enough. Like, is there anything else you wanted to add to the talk that we have today on Gilda? Because I can like sum it up by saying this: Rita Hayworth fucking rules.
yeah,
Uh, she has these amazing dance numbers in here. Like the story's a little crazy to follow. Glenn Ford's awesome, but the movie in general, just as a historic, like you said, historically, is like really, really, really important, I think. And also, it's just a great, fun movie that you get to watch a bunch of like really cool, pretty looking people from the 1940s dance around, sing, murder people. And, again, it's fun. It's fun that way. And it really brings you back to a time that was like different than the world we are now, which is so great about movies, is that like that's why it's so great that they stand the test of time. You can go back in time and see a place like this, and a time when you can make up stories like this and it didn't have to be so literal. So I love Gilda. I watch it all the time, especially because Criterion's on. Next, I'll probably watch that commentary, like you mentioned. I've been interested in it. So
hell yeah, love all that. Love you giving me my film noir knowledge. Like I said, I know a good amount, but always need your insights on it and to show me the ones my missing pieces. Yeah, no, I mean, I love it. Shout out to what's the character's name, Uncle Pio, who was like the Thai throughout the whole movie. He was like basically the servant to everybody, but he's like the guy who like was seeing everything 2 steps ahead of everybody else.
that's true.
Kind of the audience surrogate, and he always gave like this like weird noise out of his mouth to everybody, like when he was walking away. It was like he gave everybody like a raspberry or something, and it was just like him, like, I know what's actually up, and you're just gonna have to find out.
Shout out to Uncle Pio. And like he finally gets the respect from Johnny Farrell at the end, when he
Yeah,
finally does call him Uncle Pio, because he knows like this guy was legit all along, and he has actually looking out for me, and
he's
he
like,
kind of gets the score.
this motherfucker's been calling me a peasant this whole time, but I'm
Yeah,
gonna deal with it.
yeah, totally. So, pivoting for a second then. So thank you for entertaining my choice this week of Gilda. If you're watching and you haven't seen Gilda, you probably know by how enthusiastic I've been that you should go and watch it. And, let us know what you think. Give us some of your comments on, we've been more popular, it seems like, on YouTube than anywhere else. More plays there. But it could be just because people are popping in because they think they're going to watch the movie and then they see our two faces and they're like, fuck this, I'm out. But
No, they're popping in to hear about the movie, and but also to see your new artwork every week. So I think that's why I'm on YouTube. It's more popular than Spotify.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, but as Pat mentioned, we are visually present on YouTube, but then you can also listen to this on anywhere else, Spotify or wherever, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts. And yeah, go there, rate us with a positive rating, preferably, and let everybody know that this is your favorite podcast, because we love talking movies, and in part of the discussion can't really happen without other people chiming in and giving us your hot takes on the film. I want to know people that liked Gilda, that didn't like Gilda. Like, I love to have those discussions like you and I get to have, Pat. So please drop us a little love there wherever you see your social stuff, and we'll respond back.
Oh yeah, second that.
Can we move on to what's in theaters right now then?
Well, you've been champing at the bit to talk about Oppenheimer, so let's just jump into Nolan. So you were excited as fuck. I didn't. You sounded like you're ambivalent about the movie last time we talked, but then like you texted me like right after you saw it, like how much you loved it and how much you're excited. So I'm excited to hear what you thought about it, but then also just like in context of Nolan, so in his filmography.
Okay, well, I'll bring it to you this way. I had never seen Interstellar before.
Okay, yeah, you mentioned that. So,
But my nephew Max, he loves that movie. He talks about it all the time. My girlfriend likes that movie as well. I love Christopher Nolan, but I just like outer space, just like a war movie, or just like like anything like that. Like I'm timid to go into the films. Okay, so Christopher Nolan's last few films have been very war based, war driven, and kind of like that's not the subject matter. Even doesn't matter what director it is. That's not the subject that I really want to go in and watch. So that's why I hadn't seen Interstellar, because everybody's like, you haven't seen Interstellar? Probably right now listening, they're like, what's wrong with you? And you're right. I wouldn't want to go see a Christopher Nolan movie when that guy is such a badass. But anyway, I liked Interstellar a lot, but dude, it should have ended.
Wait, I'm confused. So you did just watch Interstellar, or
I did. I just want to
did.
I want to mention this really quickly before we go on to Oppenheimer, because I like Interstellar. And I fucking loved Oppenheimer. Okay, so I know there's a lot of movies in between there too, and there's also movies I hadn't seen. But I'm a big fan of Christopher Nolan. I loved Memento. I love The Following, and I love a lot of Christopher Nolan movies. There's a few I hadn't seen because I just wasn't rushing to see movies in outer space or movies about war, even though it was his movie. Now I have to tell you that I think Interstellar should have ended when he finally got to see his daughter on his deathbed. But then you go and see another character that you don't give a shit about, and I get it that it's kind of like don't give up and just keep going kind of thing. But it's like it should have ended there, and I would have liked the movie maybe a little bit more. I still thought it was great. McConaughey was kick-ass. But I was kind of going into Oppenheimer with that because I saw it the night before, and I was like, okay. But I hadn't really seen too much of Nolan in the late 2000s. Okay, so like after Inception or whatever, there wasn't too much I had seen by him. I went and saw Oppenheimer. Long way around saying it. I need the world to hear me say that I sat there with my jaw open the entire film, and I thought, this is maybe one of the most perfect films that I've ever seen. Every bit of it, the acting, the direction, the historical context. Now, granted, you know me with history, like I fucking love history and I love going back in time and realizing like what we should do again or what we shouldn't do ever again. Like this film explored so much too that I didn't know. Of course, Oppenheimer, you know, his genius, and also which of course happens to be people's downfall, or maybe it's a little bit of a forewarning tale, like what do you do with such genius and such power, and then the manipulation, and then like, you know, the way that this film presented itself as a film that was mostly dialogue, that was mostly historical, to the pacing of Oppenheimer. The pacing should win an Academy Award. I don't think that's a category, but I guess it would be for editing because, like, dude, honestly, I couldn't believe how much it held my attention throughout almost, what was it, 3 hours?
It was, I think, almost exactly 3 hours.
So I love the film. Christopher Nolan's slam dunk. I mean, I would think that that would sweep the Oscars. Your thoughts?
All right, I'll go straight into Oppenheimer because I want to talk about Nolan more. I mean, I fucking love Nolan. I've seen every one of his films multiple times, and I'll give a couple of my favorites after. But yeah, so I was pretty shocked. It's exactly 3 hours. I saw it at the Music Box in 70 millimeters, so they kind of brought out like a separate screen to show their 70 millimeter style. So that's always great. And I think there's the 70 millimeter, like the true 70 millimeter, like case was like 600 pounds or something. I saw like on Nolan thing, like just for him, like there's only a few filmmakers that are still doing that, like Tarantino and Nolan, and just to shoot on that is a difference. And you could tell, like, it looks bigger, brighter, louder than other movies. It just kind of does. So it's like, that's awesome for, you know, cinephiles like us. Like I said, I love Nolan, and so I was excited but curious to like see how he was going to handle like a biopic, like just a traditional kind of story about a man, and his life and his work, because like all of his movies are to some degree more or less like very bombastic and very large scale. And for the first like hour and a half, his editing style was completely there, and it was insane like how he was able to grab you so instantly, showing Cillian Murphy's character like getting enticed into science, just how he just kind of came to be, and going forward from there, it was astounding. Like again, his editing is just so incredible. I think that's exactly what you were saying, like with the pacing and like why a 3 hour movie, like it, I remember being like X amount of time, like pretty far into it, and I was like, I literally don't want this movie to stop.
Totally.
That even in long movies that I love, like rarely even happens. I'm like, all right, like I'm ready to like maybe take a break or finish it later, or all right, we can I'll watch it again later. But like it was pretty shocking, like how I was maybe 2 hours in, and I was thinking to myself, like, I just literally want this movie to just keep on going. And
I didn't see anybody in the theater get up and go to the bathroom.
yeah,
like everybody was captivated.
I mean, the music, obviously, in every Nolan movie has incredible music. The score, that's a huge part of his movies. Is that he uses the score to tie together with that kind of quick editing, where it's like it jumps back and forth between time and characters and almost conversations. Like there's like that's a pretty common thing with a lot of Nolan movies, where there's like two different conversations, sometimes even more, happening all at once. And you just keep on cutting back to like different characters and whatnot. And that's why a 3 hour movie can feel like a breeze with that type of masterful direction. I love Cillian Murphy, always have. I mean, he's been in so many Nolan movies. I rewatched Sunshine last year. early Danny Boyle movie. It's been kind of forgotten. It's a sci-fi movie, so maybe you're not into it. It's all set in space.
I mean, I remember 28 Days Later for sure. Speaking of Danny Boyle,
Yeah.
he's the one who kind of broke him, you know, kind of like putting him in movies.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, 28 Days Later and like Sunshine, early ones. And so to see him so comfortable in this role of like this character that's pretty stoic, and yet like that's the other thing. It's like it's a 70 millimeter movie, and half the movie is like his face. So it's like his acting is like almost entirely just his reaction, his delivery of his lines, and his um, delivering to the audience like what he's thinking and feeling, like so on such a huge fucking screen. So
dude, it's a map. I don't know how else to say it, but he is so fucking good in this film. And then I talked about Robert Downey Jr. like a bunch too, and like because you know Robert Downey Jr. is this like witty, goofy guy. This character is everything but that. Like, and I maybe we shouldn't spoil it too much, but I'm just gonna say he knows a lot about what he's doing. He's a big player in what happens to the story and the arc of the story towards the end of the film, right? So,
operator.
What's that?
He's an operator.
He's an operator. So to see Robert Downey Jr., who we all know and love, and he's got this witty charm, and you know he's Iron Man. You know, I've never seen him like this in a role like this. I mean, he's done serious films before, of course, you know, and he's done movies like
pre Marvel. It's like since Marvel, since he started Marvel, he's basically only kind of done that. So.
Right, but yeah, like David Fincher stuff, you know, and that. But seeing him in this and seeing the way that he was like very, very, very convincing, just like I was talking about with Rita Hayworth and everything, like you didn't know what was going to happen with this character until the end and when it does. And then you're kind of like, holy shit, this whole time this character has known this in his head or has been doing this and I didn't know. You know, that when there's those aha moments for the audience like that, like that's an actor really, really doing a good job, in my opinion.
Direction wise, the second half almost reminded me of JFK.
Okay.
With the black and white, the kind of conspiracy, because I mean, there's a lot of it goes into figuring out Oppenheimer's like left-wing ties, and so obviously back then that was a pretty big deal, and they would investigate that, and so that's what a lot of it is, and so kind of like a lot of the direction and the trial scenes. It just gave me kind of JFK vibes, which is a movie I love. And it's just something I was thinking about. Again, like this is a movie I'll watch multiple times again in the next 5 years, and so I'm sure I'll have a lot more to say about it when I do that. So, but yeah, I mean to keep on talking about Nolan, unless you had anything else to say specifically about Oppenheimer.
I'll just say this. We didn't see Barbie. I'm sure it's great. I've heard great things about Barbie, and I intend to see Barbie. But it was cool to see in the theater a lot of people showing up dressed for Barbie and Oppenheimer. And I kind of just love that, especially in this town, which like I just drove to Burbank today and saw everybody outside Disney picketing for the strike. I see that all the time as I walk around this town, and it's fun to see that the audience is excited about seeing film. I think this was like a great last weekend was a great weekend for those two films. Maybe not so great for our Tommy Cruise film the weekend before, but still people went out to see that too. And I think that's a nice thing to know that people are going out to the theater. So I really loved that. I loved seeing that people were dressing up, having fun for it. And then the last thing I'll say about the film, and one day we should talk more about the spoilers. We don't want to do that here, so we ruin it for you guys. But I will say 2 scenes my girlfriend was in, which I love knowing because I love the film so much. She was in the Kenneth Branagh one really quick, right at the beginning. You can see her sitting at the desk. It's like literally a split second. And we were talking about it. She's like, yeah, I remember that day, like going in and shooting that scene. And like, you could tell like Nolan, he just like, there was like a couple times like, yep, we got it. because she was in the room when he was directing, like,
Sure.
and yeah, I mean, amazing, right?
I didn't realize she was actually like on set with him. Like I knew
Yeah,
she was, oh, that's
and
amazing.
Brenna was there, like, doing the teaching. So it's like basically about like him walking into the room, seeing kind of burnout teaching, and the scene happens in the movie like split second, but like it was her. It was pretty cool. So that was one, and then like the most kind of incredible scene that I couldn't believe. I was so enamored and glued to the scene where Cillian, yeah, Killian, I don't know,
Killian.
Cillian Murphy has to go, and they're like doing that thing, and they're all on the bleachers, and they're like,
Yeah.
and the way they play with sound in that, the way they play with like the rumbling of like the atomic bomb behind them and the flash of the light, it's such that I don't know if I've ever seen anything so perfectly done in my life. That scene was so well done, all angles of everything. I can't say enough about it. But at one point, he's walking out and he's starting to see, what have I done? And he has to play it straight because everybody's so excited, like the war is ending, like this was it, and we finally got it. And he is walking out and seeing things. And at the time when my girlfriend went in to film this, they asked to do a scan so that she could be one of the victims of the atomic bomb. Well, this whole movie goes by. We thought we're going to see like her scanned as like a bunch of things. There was only one time that they used, and it was in that scene when he steps on like his foot is going to step on a victim, and that's Marianne. I don't know if you noticed.
Okay. All right. Well, so I knew you because you described her process. I didn't realize she was actually on set as in the classroom, so that I can kind of visualize that part. That's awesome. But I knew you described previously that she like did a body scan, and it was going to maybe be, obviously we haven't seen it at the time, but it was maybe be multiple bodies in
That's what we thought. Yeah.
aftermath. And so I was kind of watching that, knowing that like there was going to be possibly something like that, and I didn't quite notice it. But now that you described that, it was just that kind of one. I definitely know that I can visualize the stepping on part, and so that's amazing. She did a great performance. It was
Yeah, well,
fantastic.
yeah. I mean, we're laughing about it because, like, but I was like, this is like literally, I love the movie so much. I have a feeling this is gonna like sweep the Oscars. I was like, you were in this movie, and she's like nudging me at that point. She's like, that's me, and I was so. But that's the thing. Like I had forgotten at that point because it's that good. You're just like when she did that, I was like, what, and she's like, that's me. And I was like, oh, and now I'm like out of like this amazing scene because we were talking about it. I was almost like mad. I was like, what the fuck, But like that was her moment, and it was really cool and just really fun, just you never know, you go through these things and they used her for that scene. That's a pretty pivotal scene and she gets to be in it. So anyway, that's the last thing to say about it. Finish your Christopher Nolan stuff. I didn't mean to cut you off on that.
No, this is a long Nolan Oppenheimer tangent. Yes, so like I'm right there with you. It's way up there for me with his filmography. Like I said, all of his movies have only gotten better. I don't think I've ever not enjoyed a movie more upon a second, and some movies way more than that rewatch. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing it again. I mean, generally just for Nolan, like the four that are like really indispensable for me are Memento, The Prestige, Interstellar, and Dunkirk. So those are like my like four favorite Nolan movies, where I could watch all four of those back, start to finish, back and forth, and enjoy every single aspect of it. Prestige is kind of his sleeper one.
Great film.
So you have seen that one. I love that movie so much that it wasn't like a huge hit, but it consistently comes up. People talk about it, like everybody who like talks about it loves it. So it's like good to see that like that one is like still resonating, even though it kind of like,
honestly, I think his timing sometimes sucks because I remember there was like another magic film or something similar.
It was like Edward Norton and Paul Giamatti, The Illusionist or something a long time ago. That's a Hollywood thing. That's where it's like a trend that's happened for years, where it's like oftentimes studios will react to other studios and making their movies, where there's always just kind of like dual movies coming out.
Well, Interstellar and Gravity, same fucking year. I
Yeah.
mean, you know what I mean? Like, I definitely remember going to see Gravity, but I didn't see Interstellar that year because
Yeah.
Gravity was getting so much accolades, you know. And I honestly, I think George Clooney won the Best Actor for that, or
Not Clooney. He's only like a small voice.
oh right, well maybe
Yeah.
Sandra Bullock or something.
Yeah, yeah, that's possible. Yes, love Prestige. Memento is obviously a movie that like we were obsessed with back in the day. That's just like a gateway movie for a lot of people. Interstellar. So
So you know,
say it again.
Joey Pants in that film.
Joy Pants. He's a godsend in our youth.
Yeah.
Interstellar, so you saw for the first time recently, and that's a movie I think I mentioned. That's the one that's increased the most because I saw it in theater, possibly even twice, and each time I've watched it since then, it's only like catapulted like higher and higher. So it is absolutely one of my favorite Nolan movies because it is like such a high concept movie. It's so much more about like the wonder of time travel, space travel, and everything that goes on in there. Because yeah, like the end scene with the library and the extended parts. I mean, that's what a lot of people kind of checked out, but it definitely works for me like so much. And I think like it just you take that with everything that's amazing and yeah, it's way up there. And I think it's possibly one of his favorite movies of his own that he's ever done. So
I mean, dude, it's great, and I always love the small town shit, especially when it comes to like that. You know, like that's why I love Armageddon. You know, like all these people from a small town going up in outer space and having the same. Interstellar has that feel, like because they're small town, like you know whatever. But to also love, I do love the scene. That's why I think you should say at that point, like, "I'm your ghost. I was your ghost," and then that should end the film. I would have forgotten all about what's her name but then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, she is still out there, you know. But it's not like you really give a shit too much about her. So it's kind of like, oh, okay, he's going to save her, but he's been waiting this whole movie to see his daughter. It's always been about her. Now he finally sees her and he realizes, oh, she's got a family of her own. She doesn't need me, you know. Not that she doesn't care, but I guess it's a little hard to connect to that emotionally once you bring us on that ride. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, that's the thing, the emotional connection. I think a lot of people didn't quite feel it with that movie, but again, like it works so much better each time I've seen it. So it's definitely one I absolutely love. And then, like I said, Dunkirk is the other of the four that I absolutely love indispensably. And like just on a technical level, like what he did with that movie, telling three stories of varying time simultaneously. Is like honestly one of the best. I mean, it just utilizes the medium of film more than anything else. Like that's a movie that like can only be a movie. It's just like something like Mad Max Fury Road. It's like why that's one of my favorite movies. It's like it utilizes the medium of film visually and auditory wise to the best degree possible. You know, and so
I'm sure Robin Williams and Al Pacino will forgive you for not putting Insomnia high up on that list.
Insomnia is good. Insomnia is good. Great, actually. Like there's not a movie I don't like, at least. I mean, Dark Knight Rises is the only one that's like that's like easily his worst movie, and that still is pretty badass. So do you like
usually most notably the third film in like a trilogy of like that is usually not the one that everybody loves because you're kind of putting the bow on it, like Spider-Man 3, for instance. You know, it's like not great for Raimi, but still, it's part of the whole thing, right?
Right. Are you down? I forget. I know you've always preferred Michael Keaton's Batman, but I forget if you like the Nolan Batmans.
They're I can't choose between one or the other. They're totally different styles.
No, not choose. I just like I forget if you liked Christian Bale Nolan Batmans.
Loved.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Actors' versions of Batman. I've never seen, I don't even think I've seen anybody else's versions of that. Once Nolan's was finished and completed in 2012, I said, no more for me.
Okay. I wasn't sure how
greatness from Tim Burton and then from him, and I just decided not to go back to Batman after that.
That's fair enough. And then Tenet. Have you seen Tenet?
Not yet.
Okay, that's his most, I mean, controversial is not the right word, but it's an incomprehensible film. You literally can't hear the actors too much, and what is happening plot wise, it's almost incomprehensible while you're watching the first time. And they even like, there's a character who even says like, don't think about it too much, just feel it, like referring to something else, but that's literally Nolan saying like, you're not going to understand like what's happening with this movie. It's just more about like your feeling and reaction to it. And so that's also kind of the one I'm looking forward to like re-experiencing down the line, because I've read articles like trying to understand it, and it is comprehensible, but again, like that is like the ultimate flex of a director is like, I've gained your trust as a director. Now I'm gonna make this movie that you will not understand, but you can trust me that there is something there. And
I mean, maybe it's like kind of Vertigo for Hitchcock, you know, he knew like he's making kind of more of a personal movie,
yeah,
and it wasn't going to be like this perfect package, what you expect of Hitchcock, you know, in there. So I can understand that. I like what you said about gaining the trust of the audience, because like at that point you can make like a move like that, you know, and give them something that you want to do more so than like, you know, but in your style still, like that somebody still would like, but like I got to take more of a risk, almost like the biggest risk, but I can now because I know people are going to come and see it, you know,
yeah.
and they trust me.
He's so fucking confident, and he's a great director. Doesn't, and notably, just a side note about him, still refuses to have a smartphone, which I absolutely love. He still uses like a flip phone, and that's just notorious for him. And the more we get into the way phones have invaded our lives, I think he definitely he's onto something.
Sorry if you can hear this helicopter coming by. I think you know I live right by the children's hospital over here, so it literally shakes my place sometimes. And the windows are open today because it's so hot. Yeah, Christopher Nolan, see him every once in a while in town, walking his dog. I haven't seen him personally, but my girlfriend said that she saw a paparazzi photo of him over there by La Poubelle, which is pretty cool, knowing that that director's around town, just like hanging out, walking his dog. Like you said, no smartphone, you know.
Oh, so good. All right. Well, Oppenheimer, man. I'm looking forward to revisiting it down the line and possibly cover that one someday.
Yeah, totally. And I gotta say, Dunkirk is on my list, so I will watch that and then we can discuss that when I do. I know you're high up on that one.
It's so good. It's another, but again, like just it's you just kind of got to experience it first, because you're not going to quite be on board and fully understand like what happens in each subsequent scene. But
Yeah.
it's like it's so masterful the way he's able to do it.
Well, you know, like Ken Burns kind of did that a little bit when he told the story of well, I believe it was World War II, and there was sort of like the kids from the towns that like went to war and that went off to war, and it sort of like explores what that meant to the town, you know. And there was multiple stories, but they were like the main story. So it's kind of like what happened to that character, and like you kind of telling the story of World War II through that. I haven't seen that in a while, so I don't remember exactly what happened, but it was basically that. And I like what you were saying about Dunkirk, sort of how like it tells three stories like that. I don't know if it's the same or not, but I like the idea of like there's one thing that the story can connect on, and it's World War II, you know. But
Well,
it's
I
just
mean, and he takes it to the nth degree, because it is one of the stories is about the soldiers on land, but the another one is going by sea, and that's specifically people who were not part of the war. They go and take a boat to rescue, and so that is exactly what you're talking about with the people from the towns. But then he takes it so much further by it being time, because one of the stories covers an hour, one of the stories covers a day, and the other story covers a week. And so it's like he like cubes the whole story by like it being three different time spans. Like, so Tom Hardy in the air, his story is only an hour long, whereas the rescue is like a week, or the the deployment is like a week long, and it's going at the same back and forth, and it ends up at the same time, and it overlaps, and it's
Sounds incredibly difficult to make.
say it again.
That sounds incredibly difficult to make.
Incredibly difficult to make, a little bit difficult to understand at first, but then once you are locked into it, you realize like, oh yeah, this is why he's one of the best directors working today, is that he can pull this off. It's like,
Speaking of Ken Burns and Interstellar, this is the last thing I'll say, and then we can move on to our song of the week. But Ken Burns has a credit, and I knew it because Ken Burns also has another documentary called The Dust Bowl, and those scenes at the beginning of Interstellar were, I could tell that they were real. Like sometimes you can fake like, you know, what it looks like to be like old grainy like 90s footage, but like this wasn't faked, and I could tell this was from Ken Burns, the documentary. And at the end, I waited through the credits to see, and it said like special thanks to Ken Burns. So pretty cool. Yeah, I like that component of it, like the Dust Bowl thing, you know.
love it. Oh man, well, I definitely feel like we should pick a Nolan film sometime soon. So we'll get into music.
On Criterion.
Let's say it again.
The Following's on Criterion. That's the first movie, you know.
So that's one I definitely need to rewatch. I feel like I haven't seen that since like around watching Memento, like way back when. So that's the one I need to revisit the most. So
Pretty Hitchcock, man. I from what I remember, and I haven't seen it in a while too. So maybe we cover it. But song of the week, go ahead. I'm sorry. Keep on getting back to the Nolan thing after we're over it. So
well, I was gonna say we'll get to music. I just want to hear your reactions to the first couple of Mission Impossibles.
So we watched the same spot. Like by the time we got to last weekend, we're like, are we over Mission Impossible? And then we were. I liked the second one better than the first one. And
no shit. I love hearing that. That's amazing.
You know what's funny is because that's Brian De Palma, and you'd think that I would love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were kind of over it by the time like we got to like the third one, which is a bummer because I'm sure they get better. But dude, they are what they are. You know, it's like this. And the first one's talk about like hard to follow story.
Oh, it's you can't follow the story. It's incomprehensible. That one's incomprehensible for sure.
And then like the second one was kind of like second verse, same as the first, you know, like, and I was like, okay. But I did like seeing Philip Seymour Hoffman. We got about like maybe like a half an hour into the third one, and then you know we fell asleep that night, and then we just like, because we don't see each other much during the week, we didn't watch it again. I may watch them on my own, but then the next weekend we just kind of like had other things to do. We had Oppenheimer, and so we missed it because our whole intention was to go see the new Mission Impossible in the theater, but there was too many to get through. We didn't see that.
Yeah, you're biting off more than you can chew.
Yeah,
like
sure.
I love those movies, but yeah, you don't necessarily need to marathon all 6 of them at a time. So, and I could just say, like the new one is good. You don't need to see it ASAP. Compared to the other ones that are coming up. So I mean, John Woo did the second one that you said you loved. That was like almost his fault.
You know, I figured like, okay, that makes more sense than doing Brian De Palma, who, you know, not necessarily an action director.
No, I mean, but that's why I love the first one so much, is that it's so evenly a De Palma movie, but more so a Tom Cruise movie. It's like that's him like setting his foot down, like as like this is a Tom Cruise series rather than a Mission Impossible or the specific director. Take your time, don't binge them, but get to 4 through 6 because that is where it like pops. Like 4 is Brad Bird after Iron Giant and The Incredibles. So it was kind of like a really left turn for the series, and that's really comes into its own. And then 5, 6 are Christopher McQuarrie, and that's like just Tom Cruise's guy now, and that's just where they
like both Jack Reachers I saw too.
So I haven't seen those actually. I should check those out.
Yeah, but that's McQuarrie or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Speaking of Brad Bird, he was on TCM a lot. He would be like a kind of a co-host and talk about like his love of old movies and stuff. So I always respected him, but I didn't know much of his work. I just knew that he was like kind of this cool director that came in, you know.
I mean, he's honestly one of my favorite animated movies of all time. The Iron Giant. That was like his first big movie. It was from '99. It was like when it was still 2D animation, so it kind of got forgotten. Like at that time, it was in '99, like one of the best movie years ever, but that is definitely one of my favorite animated films. And then he did The Incredibles, which people love, and he did Ratatouille, which is one of my favorite Pixar movies. So yeah, and he started. I didn't realize he started off on The Simpsons. He was a producer in the early '90s for The Simpsons. That's where he got his MO. So
A lot of good people came out of there for sure.
yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, don't get burnt out on the Mission Impossible. Just take your time. Watch one every couple of weeks or whatnot. So
Yeah,
you get through
I'm
it.
gonna finish them, especially because I know I just want to talk about them with you. So that's why.
All right. Anything else? You want to get into music?
Let's get into music and then let's call it. I mean, we've been going forever, and I feel like my computer may die at some moment because you paused for a minute over at this other one. Maybe by next time I'll have a new computer, but man, this thing is taking a beating. So anyway, go ahead.
All right, I'll go first. Yeah. So I was hearing, I listened to a little bit of just some clips recently of Dave Chappelle's podcast, Midnight Miracle. He does it with Yassine Bey. It was previously, formerly Mos Def.
Oh yeah.
And pretty cool podcast. Like I said, I haven't heard too much of it, but just kind of clips. I mean, I love both of them, so it was awesome to hear. Chappelle's last stand-up specials of the last couple of years are incredible. They're definitely keeping me happy through the pandemic. But it was
great in Cadillac Records too, as Chuck Berry.
yes. So Mos Def did have a pretty diverse film career. Which I only saw like some stuff, but his, I was just re-listening to his album from '99, Black on Both Sides. It's an album I loved when it came out, and it's always kind of gone back to over the years. And one of the songs that it was kind of always my favorite is New World Water. That's going to be my song for the week. And it definitely resonated with me lately because of we're finally actually starting to see like the realization of climate change and like a bunch of seemingly end of the world apocalyptic stuff going on, and just water scarcity is just something that's always been like happening, and whether or not we're actually going to get to a point of water scarcity is to be seen. There are people who are confident that just technology is going to save us, and it's not anything that we have to worry about. Regardless of that, there are plenty of places in the world that are scarce on water, and including California sometimes, like where you're at right now. So, but New World Water, it was a song he wrote in '99. I fucking love it. His line, "Fuck a bank, I needed a 20-year water tank," has just been permanently implanted in my head. Like, because it's a song I love, and just that one line is emphasized. And so like for like the last like 24 years, like anytime like anybody's ever mentioned anything about water scarcity, like that just like sets that line off in my head. Fuck a bank, I need a 20-year water tank.
Love it.
I don't think it's necessarily the best advice, but like there's it's just such a great line.
Well, I mean, like there's so much more behind that, right? Like just
Yes, exactly.
you don't, money doesn't matter when you're thirsty,
Yes, that's certainly the impetus for the song. There's so many great fucking verses. But yeah, I mean, I love this song. It still fucking rules after all these years, and it's like kind of more in Yasin Bey's like social commentary phase. Like I haven't kept up with like all of his records, but like everything I do here is still awesome. But the other part, I got an email that was just talking about, it was like this brief financial email, and it was talking about the importance of water ETFs, like exchange traded funds, and just the investment in water has always been happening, but it's like it's in full blown aspect now. Like the amount of ETFs focused on water are just pretty prolific, and that just, I always think of this song anytime any of that ever comes up, with the exchange of money and the capitalization of water, because this is such an essential song with that. So
Cool. Can't wait to hear it. I love that line. I also kind of like the fact that we're like, I don't know if we have too much like rap artists going on our playlist, so that's cool. Like adding a little bit more diverse songs to an already very diverse list.
I mean, besides D.D. King, not too much. So.
Yeah, you're right. Re-listened to that full record the other day on a walk, and
there's so good, right?
Some songs that I was thinking to myself, like way ahead of his time.
Oh yeah.
Got any accolades for that living, but he was like that, like quintessential punk. Like,
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be a rapper now. I'm gonna do this. You know, um, there's some
No,
songs.
that whole album is amazing. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, very good, very good. I was just like my jaw was on the floor listening to it in a new way almost because you can go the route of like the crowd sometimes, you know, like, oh, this what was Dee Dee thinking? He's so stupid. Like, why would he do this and quit the Ramones? And you know, that was like what everybody was kind of saying. But until you like really listen to it with like none of that in mind, you don't really realize like how great of a record it really is. You know, it's really good.
It's just also just good art stands the test of time. It just gets better over time. So
Just what a lot of people, I just again not to like keep this conversation going, but it's like a lot of people don't think about they don't think about their livelihood of or their legacy as much as maybe they should. Maybe that doesn't matter to them, but in more days, more times than not these days on social media and things like that, it's about like the very quick things that you can like do to like put up, and the work isn't even that good, or you know, it's just like, well, hold on, why don't you think a little bit more about like the quality of the work and like what that means to you as an artist, you know, in the long run, instead of just like what it means today. And I'm all for living in the moment, but also got to think a little bit ahead of like what your life means, you know, as an artist. What is it? What do you want to accomplish? You know.
I mean, that's literally every morning Tarantino gets up and asks himself that question, which is why his entire career has been about like, what's my legacy going to look like?
Um, so the last part of our conversation will be my song, I think, and I don't mean this to be something you would totally expect, but I had mentioned a few movies to you about covering this time around, and you picked Gilda, which was a surprise to me, to be honest with you. I thought maybe we would get into a couple of the other ones, but you picked Gilda, which I was happy about because it was, I really wanted to watch that one. But I did also want to watch that Elvis film because I had watched it the other day and I was ready for a rewatch on it because it's absurd, dude. Like those films are absurd, and it's
I mean,
like,
that's what I expect because, like I said, I haven't seen really any of them, so
okay,
I hope they're absurd.
yeah.
That's what I would hope to get out of.
Well, regardless if we cover it on the next Remainders or another one in the future, I want you to at least see this one sometime, just for the sheer like they would never make this film again, and it's
Yeah,
why I kind of love this film. Um, it's Blue Hawaii. I watched it because it's kind of like one of the ones that's like more known from Elvis's filmography. There's a bunch on there that they've curated on Criterion, but this one especially, like I've just heard of, and you know, I kind of wanted to see like Technicolor Hawaii with Elvis. You know, like
oh, yeah.
sit down and watch that. And the movie's exactly what you would think, but it's also a little bit like shockingly more down the road than you would even imagine. Like 50 girls going after him coming off the plane at the very beginning of the movie, meeting his like kind of girl he's going to be with, kissing like another girl, kind of ruining like these girls like are going after him and their lives are being ruined. He's spanking a girl at one point, and the very next scene he's at dinner with all of them or at lunch with all of them. Then he gets into jail because he's like kicking ass. It's like, you know, exactly what you would think. Like let's let Elvis like fuck around with like a lot of chicks and be like, you know, hard to get, and then let's like let him kick some guys' asses, you know, and then like pepper in a few times when he like sings really great songs and he has his shirt off a few times, and that's end scene. And there's no plot to the fucking movie, no plot, you know. But it's perfect that way. That's like what you want. So I loved it. I loved watching Blue Hawaii, but there's a song in it that I had never. There's two songs in it that I had never heard that I really like. The one I'm going to talk about today is kind of like a fun one. It's like called Moonlight Swim. And I just like it because it's kind of like one of those like quick ditties that are just like fun, playful. It happens in a scene where he's like in the car driving like these five girls and they're kind of singing along with them. And I just thought like, what a, this is like the perfect bow on a movie that like I sat down to watch, and thought it would be a fun addition to our playlist. Elvis's Moonlight Swim. Not like a song that really like has any deep meaning or anything. It's just like fun Hawaiian feel, like could be perfect if you're sitting out there having a rum cocktail with your lady on vacation.
Hell yeah. I'm looking at my Elvis picture that you painted of his portrait on the coffee mug. It's one of my favorite paintings I got in my place. So
Thank you. Yeah, that what's funny and fun about that painting is that was my favorite coffee mug. It was like this great picture of Elvis. My brother got me that coffee mug at
oh, so that was a real coffee mug. I
yes.
thought, okay, I guess I never inquired, but I always kind of maybe assumed you came up with just, you know, because you were just feeling coffee and you put them on the picture, but it was an actual mug that you had. That's awesome.
An actual mug, and it broke at one point. He got it from me,
Oh,
and
son of
it
a-
was like the most devastating day of my life. But I think a year before that happened, I painted that, and I think I titled that one "Mornings with the King" or something like that, because that used to be my coffee mug every morning. So yeah.
well, I feel like I'm gonna have to send you the picture back, man, if you broke your mug.
Yeah, no, that's yours now. That's it. You spend your mornings with the king until I can do this podcast with you in person, and then we'll have our morning with the king and talk about another crazy Elvis movie that wouldn't be made today because of how terribly women are treated in it.
A lot of ass smacking and forgiving for it. Love it. Right
Yeah.
up my alley. So
All right, well, cool. Like we'll add those to the list, and then we shall live to talk about another great film in 2 weeks.
oh, so excited for it. Always a pleasure to talk with you. Look forward to it all the time. Creating this video store vibe, these conversations. My favorite. Love it.
Thank you, everyone out there listening to us. We look forward to hearing your thoughts on Gilda. Pat, talk to you next time.